If you turn on cable news right now, you'll hear a very specific vocabulary being used to describe the US and Israeli strikes on Iran. Anchors talk about surgical decapitation. They praise precision strikes. It sounds clinical, sterile, and entirely under control. But the reality on the ground tells a much different story. In the opening days of Operation Epic Fury, an American F-15E fighter jet was shot down deep inside Iranian territory, leaving its crew stranded in a hostile desert. In the southern town of Minab, an aerial attack struck a school, killing more than 170 civilians, most of them young girls. The clinical language of a precise military campaign starts to fracture when you look at the actual human toll. When we only consume the sanitized vocabulary of news broadcasts, we develop a massive blind spot. We stop seeing the actual costs of a rapidly escalating conflict, and we ignore the cascading threats it poses to the entire global economy. The dominant narrative frames this military intervention strictly as a response to unprovoked Iranian aggression. The coverage focuses heavily on the immediate rhetoric of US leadership, presenting the strikes as the only possible reaction to an irrational enemy. What gets consistently left out of that timeline is the 2015 Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, commonly known as the Iran nuclear deal. Under that agreement, international inspectors verified that Tehran was keeping its end of the bargain and preventing the enrichment of weapons-grade uranium. That compliance held until the US unilaterally tore the agreement up during President Trump's first term. By deleting that specific history, broadcasters create a simplified story with clear heroes and villains. It makes military action feel inevitable, rather than the result of a deliberate choice abandoning diplomacy. Leaving out the timeline of the nuclear deal misdirects the public. It hides the series of escalations that actually brought us to this crisis, making it nearly impossible to understand why peaceful negotiations failed. News networks frequently use phrases like take out or decapitate to describe military objectives. These are euphemisms designed to sanitize the reality of assassinating specific political figures, like Iran's supreme leader, Ali Khamenei. This sterilized language also masks the civilian death toll. While networks analyze target lists, the deaths of those 170 schoolgirls in Minab received little to no sustained coverage on major US broadcasts. You'll also hear the phrase boots on the ground. It makes an invasion sound like a calm hike, completely obscuring the reality of deploying heavily armed American troops into an actively hostile war zone. The focus on clean, high-tech warfare also buries massive tactical disasters. Early in the conflict, 3 American warplanes were shot down in 3 separate incidents by friendly fire from Allied forces in Kuwait. And the mission to rescue the downed F-15E crew in Iran was a catastrophe. To extract the airmen, the US lost an A-10 attack aircraft and intentionally destroyed 2 of its own C-130 transport planes to avoid capture, racking up an estimated $2 billion cost for a single operation. When the vocabulary of a war is scrubbed clean, it actively normalizes the violence. It insulates military leaders from public accountability when their operations go horribly wrong. Roughly 20 million barrels of oil, 1/5 of global seaborne oil trade, move through the Strait of Hormuz every day. Disrupting this choke point caused an aggressive spike in global crude, driving prices rapidly toward $130 a barrel. Committing forces to secure these Middle Eastern waterways leads to a massive drain on American military readiness, creating a condition known as strategic overextension. Aircraft carriers, missile interceptors, and diplomatic attention are pulled away from the Indo-Pacific and Eastern Europe. This reallocation directly benefits adversaries like Russia, who face less pressure in Ukraine, and China, who gains a freer hand regarding Taiwan. While television pundits cheer the success of localized tactical strikes, the broader reality is that this operation has triggered a cascading failure across global security alliances and international energy markets. If the Iranian government collapses completely, the instability won't be contained to the Middle East. European borders would face intense migration pressure, with asylum agencies warning of a massive refugee crisis if even a fraction of Iran's population is forced to flee. Neighboring nations are already feeling the economic shockwaves. In Egypt, as Red Sea shipping traffic stalls and Suez Canal transit revenue plummets, an already fragile national economy is being pushed toward the breaking point. During the Iraq War, General David Petraeus famously asked, Tell me how this ends. But when the media frames a conflict entirely around sterile, successful tactical strikes, the public is never given the context needed to ask that question. Sanitized language manufactures consent. It convinces us that endless conflicts can be fought cleanly, cheaply, and without severe consequences for the people living in the crossfire. To understand the actual stakes of global warfare, we have to recognize those euphemisms for what they are: red flags designed to hide a messy, cataclysmic reality.